If you've been married longer than 12 months, you know that sometimes even the best intentioned conversations with your spouse can go sideways fast. You may have picked the right time, you chose just one topic, you've used all the good communication tools, and still one of you ends up getting overwhelmed mid conversation. Your heart's racing, voices rise, one of you shuts down or explodes altogether. Sound familiar? This is the moment where a lot of couples do more damage that they can't take back without even realizing that that's what they're doing. But it doesn't have to be that way. Before we go on, I want to say this one thing loud and clear. Getting flooded with emotion doesn't mean that you're failing. It doesn't even mean that you're doing anything wrong necessarily. It just means that you're human and you're having a human experience. In a marriage in particular, emotional dysregulation is common and it is okay, but it becomes a problem when you don't have a plan for what to do next. So today, I'm giving you two powerful tools to use when things start to spiral, when you notice yourself emotionally getting out of control during a conversation with your spouse. They are simple, they are not dramatic. When you use them with intention, they can save your marriage from a lot of unnecessary hurt going forward. The first one is what I call a temperature check. It's a quick 1 to 10 scale that helps you both track how good or not so good in your skin you're feeling, in right, how regulated or how dysregulated, in other words, you're feeling in that very moment. Here's how it works. At the start of a conversation with your spouse, you're going to do a check-in, you with you internally. I am at a 2 or 3 and I am feeling totally cool, calm, and collected. Or I am at a 7 and I'm kind of on edge already. Here's what's really key. You do this with you internally, me, myself, and I, not looking at your spouse and serving as their thermostat, doing their temperature check for them. You kind of look like you're all the way up there already all hissy and pissed off, right? That's not how that works. And I don't know if that's how you sound, that's how I imagine we all sound. You're doing this for yourself, letting your spouse do it for themselves. Now, if one of you starts climbing, again, you're saying this on your own behalf. Say you go from that 3 to a 7 or from a 4 to a 6 to an 8, all in 2 seconds flat. That's your sign that you are no longer in that cool, calm, and collected place that you were just minutes ago. And it's your sign that you're getting irritated or frustrated or impatient or outright mad. Your nervous system, in other words, is getting flooded, and it's time to take a break or a pause. Here's why this works. You cannot problem solve well. And I'd even say you can't do anything or most things really well when your emotions are at a 10, 12, or a 25 on that emotional scale of 1 to 10. Every one of us hits that point of no return at a different number. Generally speaking, 9, 10 no longer works for most people. So knowing your temperature and keeping track of it throughout gives you the chance to pause before things completely explode, right? Before things get completely out of control right in front of you. The second tool is the timeout. When you realize that the conversation is no longer safe or the two of you are no longer being productive, when you're finding yourself at a number that's too high for you to be present, it's time for a timeout. But not the kind that you got as a kid. This is a grown-up kind of agreement that when things get too hot for either one of you, you can call a pause. You can ask for a break. No shame, no blame. It's actually the responsible thing to do. Here's what it looks like in real life. Hey, I'm not in a place to keep talking without risking saying something or doing something that I'm going to regret later. And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to need a break. I'll check back in 30 minutes. Or you may simply say something like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling myself shutting down. I'm going to need a little space. I'll be able to re-engage better later. The key here is you always set a time to come back. That doesn't even mean that you're going to re-engage in that very conversation. In fact, the smartest way, this is how I learned it from Terry Real, the man himself, you take a 24-hour moratorium, because chances are, if you were to restart that same conversation, you'd find yourselves in that very same place, needing yet another timeout. Listen, we've all done a timeout that went something like this. You jump up from your seat, you stomp out of the room, maybe you say something under your breath, maybe you even yell, "I can't do this anymore." But you leave the room, you walk out of the house, you slam the door behind you, you get in your car, and you take off like you're being chased by a swarm of bees. You've done this, I've done this. That's a kind of timeout. But if you're the one left behind, you're left wondering what just happened. Where did they go? When are they coming back? Are they even coming back? And it's all because it's missing that other key thing, which is telling your spouse when you're coming back and that you're coming back. Timeouts without a planned return create avoidance and distance. Timeouts where you know that you're re-engaging and when you're doing so, those result in repair instead. And that's what we're all after. Here's why this matters. Most couples either push through while they're out of control, while they're dysregulated to no end, causing harm in the process, or they shut down and they avoid, and they cause distance as a result. This gives you a third way, a grown-up, respectful pause, a meaningful break that protects your connection. When you learn to use these tools, you'll start to believe something powerful, and it's this: we don't have to be afraid of hard conversations anymore. We just needed a strategies when those conversations got hard. And now we have that. That's when things started to change. I have couples who have put this into action. They know how to take an adult timeout and do it the right way. They've practiced the pause, they've gotten good at it, and now are no longer fearful because they know what to do when it happens. And because they've built that muscle of regulation, they fight less and they're able to reconnect faster. This isn't magic. It's just what happens when both people take responsibility for their own emotional responses, for their own nervous system. That's the beauty in this. Now, sometimes it's not just the conversation that needs a timeout, it's the entire system of your marriage. What worked for you two in the beginning, whether that's 5 years ago, 10, 25, it may not work anymore. So if you're feeling resentful, overwhelmed at all, or unsupported by your spouse, you need to know how to reset your marriage roles when life changes. That's what I talk about in the next video. Go watch that next. It's a different kind of magic that I call the renegotiation magic. I'll show you how to shift things together without blame, without scorekeeping. I'll see you in there. And if you found this helpful, go get your wife, go get your husband. Watch the next one together.